look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother. When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother.
I had a sorority sister who really did not like me. And I don't know if what specifically about me she didn't like, or just all of me, which is fine. But she made life fairly difficult for me. Always saying things that were rude, or when I had to speak at meetings or give announcements or something, she would purposefully be a distraction or talk during it and not listen and be disrespectful. And I think what ultimately happened was, what I wanted to do, my first impression and my first instinct of what I wanted to do was A, either be so rude back to her, or B, just completely run away from the situation and ignore her completely. And either of those options, I'm sure, during the course of our 4 years together, I used. But I do remember a couple occasions where I felt like the Holy Spirit was just saying to me, just love her. Just be nice to her. You have no idea why she doesn't like you, or what it is about you that is making her be like this to you, but that's okay. And you can't control her. You can just control how you respond to the situation. And so I remember a couple times where I just had to smile and ask her how her day was when I passed her in the hallway, or when I decided to sit at the breakfast table with her, ask her how she was doing, what was going on in that week. It was never reciprocated, ever, but that's okay. But I just felt like at a couple specific instances, there were those times where I felt like the Holy Spirit was just nudging me to say, how are you? What's going on in your week? Instead of being mean back to her or ignoring her.
Back in college, when I was starting out as a freshman, it's this environment and community where being social and meeting new people and making new friends was happening. Being as a person who has the strength of woo, which stands for winning others over, I loved meeting strangers and meeting new people, trying to figure out what they're passionate about, what they don't like, and see if maybe I can meet them in the middle and be friends with them. Every now and then I'd find someone who wouldn't enjoy me as a person, I thought. They wouldn't laugh at my jokes. They wouldn't think I'm smart enough. And I wondered, what is it that I don't have yet that would make that person like me? In some cases, I started to maybe resent myself for not having a certain quality or personality trait that would win people over. In other cases, I would think, what is wrong with that person? I know I'm a good person, and I know I'm funny, and I know I'm smart. Why don't they like me? And I started to think, what would Jesus do in those moments? And it reminds me of times when people maybe didn't understand Jesus when they first met him. They were maybe critical or judgmental, insensitive to certain things. It's more important to love people than to be liked, is what I learned from Jesus. I started thinking about, how do I love people that maybe don't understand me or are at arm's length away? I thought about praying for them and what that looks like. And when I realized that through those prayers, my heart became softer for those people when I engaged with them. Maybe I became less forward or socially aggressive and calmed down around those who were maybe more introverted. I started to ask questions that were pertaining to their life instead of sharing what was going on with my life and what I was dealing with myself. And so I think when I was asking those people who maybe didn't understand me or I didn't get along with what their story was, I started to see what made them unique, what made them special. And slowly that line of enemy became something towards a friendship. And I think slowly you'll start to see the specialness in each person when you start to hear their story and connect with them. God might surprise you.
I used to nanny for this lady who, to be honest, was just really mean. She thought the whole world revolved around her, and I was there to help her out with whatever was needed. And it started out great. I had a fun time. I got to hang out with her little kids, be their nanny, help out around the house. But after a while, it just kind of got to be an unhealthy situation, and she was kind of mean to me, and I would basically just come home every day and complain about her. So I don't think that was the best approach to her face. I was loving and I did what she asked, but I don't think it was probably helpful for me to come home and just trash talk her for like 20 minutes every day. And so it's not like a fun little happy end of the story. I still don't have any like great feelings about her. I left that environment because it was not helpful, and it was just kind of like consuming me. And there was no way that I could make her like me, and that was just a hard situation to be in. And she knew that I was a Christian, and I knew that she was not. So I really wanted to be a good example of loving her well, but it was just so hard when she was just always saying mean things to me and about my work ethic, which I took really personally because I actually work really hard. So I would say that for a while I was able to love her well, but then it just I just wasn't able to do that. And
so when I think about loving your enemy, my mind immediately goes to the fact that all throughout high school I played a couple sports, and I wasn't great at any of the sports I played. I was kind of just barely eking my way onto varsity, but I just remember one of the reasons why coaches tended to want me at least on the team in some way is because I'd always worked really hard, because I took the things that I was doing very seriously. But one of the hard parts of that is that I was and really still am super competitive, and it doesn't come out for me in, like, if I'm playing board games or card games or stuff with my friends, that it doesn't really come out. But anytime I'm playing like soccer or tennis or anything like that, I have to try really hard to not just get so engrossed and so totally consumed by this, like, I need to win. And when I was in high school, that really ended up being, it led to me almost getting in fist fights on the field during soccer games. It led to, and honestly it still does lead to, me just getting so mad and just so pissed whenever, like, in soccer I play goalie, and anytime I get scored on, I'm just furious. And like, my natural reaction is just to like punch the goalpost as hard as I can. And it's just so weird, 'cause I'm not like that in anything else in my life. And so it got really easy for me to see the people that I was playing against as my enemy. And so during games, it's okay to be competitive, and it's good to be competitive, but then after games, even as we're shaking hands, I would still be just like fuming, and this thing would go on in my head that I would just start making up all these reasons why they're terrible people, and that's totally not the case. And so one of the things I've been trying to learn and praying that God would teach me and help me do is to be able to be competitive, but then after the game, be able to see anyone on the other side of the field as another person, and to be able to appreciate the gifts and talents that they have. But that's not natural for me, and so I have to be sure to be praying and asking God to help me in that, because if I just go with what's natural, I'm going to distance myself from those people, from people on the other team or whatever it might be, as much as I can. And so, that's been a growing process, and I'm definitely not perfect, and I haven't totally learned everything I need to learn in it. But when I think about how can I continue to ask God to help me love my enemies more, that's kind of one of the biggest things that comes to mind.
When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother.